Let's talk for a moment about how increased food distribution can be a problem rather than a solution. In 2002, after I presented at the Johannesburg Earth Summit in South Africa, I went to visit my Uncle Richard in Maputo, Mozambique. His job at the time was working for USAID in agriculture. The day I arrived, he was away overseeing a huge tanker shipment of surplus wheat from America that was being given as a gift to the people of Mozambique. Critics, of course, said that this was part of a practice of dumping surplus from America so that the supply-demand curves favored producers. When there's too much wheat in America, prices and profits go down. So many farmers are compelled to either restrict production, leave land fallow, or to destroy surplus. They will burn grain and slaughter cattle and leave them to rot. Happens all the time. Or they give the surplus away as a form of aid. In the Superman comic, Superman is shown trying unsuccessfully to carry a tanker full of wheat to African countries and is stopped by the local military who want their people to starve to maintain their own power. But what if the tanker full of wheat is a huge part of the problem itself? Wheat and other grains, as Richard Manning points out in his astonishing book, Against the Grain, How Agriculture Hijacked Civilization, have been the causes not only of environmental degradation and political conflict, but malnutrition itself. It seems paradoxical, but the evidence is in. High-calorie foods cause malnutrition, and they are addictive. The more you eat, the less healthy you become, and the more you crave, in what becomes ultimately a death spiral. So shipping wheat to Mozambique isn't aid, it's more like drug pushing. I came to Mozambique eager to spread the results of my own master's degree research into the benefits of so-called tree cereals as substitutes for grains. In particular, I was championing the use of the Maya breadnut tree as an urban agroforestry solution. In the jungles of Guatemala, near the pyramids of Tikal, I had lived off nothing but tortillas made from breadnut, seeds of the giant rainforest tree Brassimum alicastrum in the Moraceae or fig family, filled with avocado slices and lemon, all obtained from trees at the research site where I was living. I sustained myself on only these 3 tree products for over 3 weeks, all while doing hard work, digging and building and carrying. And I learned that I only really needed to eat once a day, something that I've also experienced on the paleo diet for the past 5 years. When I told my uncle about the breadnut tree and what it could do for African countries, he said, "You would have to get in line, a long line. In international aid, there's a long waiting list to get a project going. It can take decades." Right now, the alternative to wheat being introduced, he said, after years of lobbying, is cassava. Cassava? I exclaimed with chagrin. That plant is almost all starch. It's hardly nutritional at all. According to the website authoritynutrition.com, a 3.5 ounce or 100 gram serving of boiled cassava root contains 112 calories, and 98% of these are from carbs, and the rest are from a small amount of protein and fat. Overall, the nutrition profile, they say, of cassava is unremarkable. And while it does provide some vitamins and minerals, the amounts are minimal. There are many other root vegetables you can eat, they say, that will provide significantly more nutrients, beets and sweet potatoes to name 2. The summary, cassava is a significant source of carbs and also provides a small amount of fibers, vitamins and minerals. Processing cassava by peeling, chopping and cooking it significantly reduces the nutritional value. Of course, you can't eat it if you don't chop it and boil it. And this is because many of the vitamins and minerals are destroyed by processing, as well as most of the fiber and resistant starch. Therefore, they say the more popular processed forms of cassava, such as tapioca and gari, have very limited nutritional value, end quote. And yet this is and was the large-scale nutritional solution being foisted on Africa at the time of the Earth Summit. I remembered seeing rainforests destroyed in Sumatra by the Indonesian government in the 1980s when I was doing research there, so that transmigrants could be moved from overcrowded Bali to the wilderness. After they destroyed the forest with all of its incredibly nutritious biodiversity, the government supplied the people with free cassava seedlings, which they planted in vast plantations over what was once a life-giving forest. The local people told me, if the forest was still here, we could survive. Now we will starve. Starving in the midst of supposed abundance is what food deserts are all about. In Mozambique, I went to local markets and met women trying to sell and buy local foods, like the highly nutritional mafuro, a plant with a black seed about the size of a fingernail with an oily orange flesh around the sides of it that my uncle's cook, a wise woman who is a self-proclaimed witch doctor, turned into a great meal. This woman told me, as a little girl, I trained in what you call now ethnobotany. We have thousands of indigenous foods we can eat that we used to eat. Nobody starved. Now all of it is being lost as the forests are being destroyed and people are being forced by the market to just eat different colors and shapes of the same three plants, wheat, corn, and rice. And they aren't even healthy plants. Your uncle is well-intentioned, but by bringing tankers full of wheat into Mozambique, he is helping kill our culture and our people. It would be tempting to think that the military dictators in the Superman comic were thus doing their people a favor by trying to keep a red, white, and blue superhero from delivering wheat to its starving masses. But sadly, the protection and revival of ethnobotanical and nutritional wisdom seems to be the farthest thing from the minds of most world leaders or regional politicians and security forces. Peanut farmer President Jimmy Carter, Congressman and Ambassador Andrew Young, who champions inner-city farming and aquaponics, and Michelle Obama with her White House garden may be the notable exceptions. Most people, from politicians to pedestrians, believe that the problem in the world is that we don't have enough food. You probably believe it too. Most people believe that improving yields, mostly now through genetic modifications and pesticides and herbicides, and putting more land in production are the answers to the challenge of feeding the masses in a world quickly approaching 9 billion people. But I challenge you to see things differently. I challenge you to see through a different set of rose-colored glasses that identifies almost everything we consume from agriculture today as non-nutritional cash crops, what I call NNCCs. Things like tobacco, coffee, tea, sugar, wheat, rice, corn, oats, barley, potatoes, even hypertrophic fructose-saturated fruits like modern bananas and oranges that make corporations rich, but ultimately offer nothing but addictive drug-like substances, of which sugar, fructose, and sucrose are the most insidious to consumers. And I challenge you to try getting off these substances for a few months and see what it feels like. You won't be alone. I've been doing it for 5 years. And then I challenge you, at the very least, to buy from farmers markets, and at best, to start growing your own food at home or in your community so that you can be the change you want to see in the world, so that you can be the superhero. To its credit, the Millennial Superman comic ends with a similar way to solve the crisis. Quote, a disheartened Superman is seen kneeling on the ground amid the rubble of the destroyed food, and he declares, my mission ends here, incomplete and in failure. Back in Metropolis, the discouraged Clark Kent sits in his apartment and ponders the failure of his mission. He knows that most people respected what he was trying to accomplish, but he also feels the disappointment of millions across the globe who were still waiting, but somehow knew that he wouldn't be coming. Worldwide media demanded a statement from Superman, and it came in the form of an interview with Clark Kent. An interview that was the page one story in the Daily Planet. He admits that despite his best efforts, he now sees that the project was too big for one man, even if he is a Superman. The solution to the problem of world hunger rests on the compassion of each person for another. And he says, there's an old saying, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach him to fish and he eats for a lifetime. He goes on to say, I ask everyone to share what they have with those who need it, their knowledge, their time, their generosity, especially with the young, for on them rests our future and all hope of a true peace on earth. In the end, Clark Kent does his part by teaching local school children about what he learned from his father in a Kansas field. He and the children, each one equipped with an over-the-shoulder bag of seeds, walks out over the field spreading seeds. And as they walk, he tells them, not every seed will make it, but all of them deserve the chance to grow. Peace on earth. What would you do if you were Superman? As a student, as a Nexus thinker, as a sustainability superhero, what will you do?